Broadcasting from an undisclosed location under a farm pond somewhere in the Midwest. Your host is Jim Crowley. This is Slickfish Radio. And here we are, back again. Just seems like about a week or so we did this. Actually, we did. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of Slickfish Radio. This is going to be a fun show tonight. We have MLF Pro, James Elam, on with me, and he's just a great guy. You guys, if you haven't seen him on the show here before, we've had him on before, and he's just a wealth of information, great angler, and just always a lot of fun to talk to. And one of our big guys at Team Casking, so it's always going to be fun to talk to him. So we'll talk to him first and foremost. So first of all, I want to thank all of you. We say this to you every week. Thank you so much for joining us. We wouldn't have a show if it wasn't for all of you. So we're always grateful when you all join us. We're also thankful for Shields. Hey, I was just at Shields recently, and for all you waterfowl guys, that's what I love doing when I'm not fishing, is waterfowl hunting and shooting. Shields has got a great stocking on a lot of great firearms there, including Browning and Beretta, which are two of my favorites. They have a lot of good guns. They're full up with ammo there. They are ready for waterfowl season. So make sure you stop in at Shields. I've actually got a bike from there. They've got a great bike department there. So if you're into even off-road biking or anything like that, Shields they have mechanics on site. It's just a great one-stop shop for everything in the outdoor world. Shields is just a great place. Our friends at Lure Parts Online, we're going to be introducing, some people are clicking on already. Well, hi there. Savannah Cove Outdoors. Hey, Jim. Hi, guys. How are you? Glad to have you on the show tonight. Lure Parts Online, we're going to be, we want to thank them, obviously. Cast King, we got James Elam on, like I said, so we're going to be talking some Cast King tonight. We're going to be talking about some of the reels he uses, some of the ones I use. And we were actually talking about that a little bit before the show. I don't think anybody offers more reels, bait casting or spinning, and more different gear ratios to allow you to be able to do exactly what you want no matter what you fish for than casting. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. There's no doubt that they are fueled by innovation, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight because it's both James and I have had extensive use of their products, and so we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. Mudhole. Looking forward to another great year with Mudhole because so much stuff that they are doing in rod building and everything. I mean, there is only one great one-stop shop for everything that you need when it comes to rod building, and that is Mudhole. My signature series rod kits are doing well. Thank you, everybody. I'm excited about that. I'm glad people are liking it. I've got some couple really nice emails from all of you. That was very kind of you to do that. So thank you so very much for that. And we are powered, of course, by Dakota Lithium, 11-year warranty, great customer service. We have some people chiming in here. Well, hi, William. Hello from Classic Lures. Well, Classic Lures, it's great to have you and William here. Thanks, man. Glad to have you here. Milton Thompson came in. There's a Cast King guy right there. Milton, how are you? Great to have you with us tonight. So, you know what? Hey, I'm glad that y'all came talk to me or listen to me talk, but I'm not the only one you want to see. You want to see this guy right here. Hey, James Elam, welcome back to the show, my friend. How the heck are you?
I'm great, Jim. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, man, I was looking forward to it. I feel so bad at ICAST. It was 1,000 miles an hour, right? And I hear, Jim, as we're running back this way, and I had to go somewhere, and you're heading back to the booth, and by the time I got back there, you were gone. So I always enjoy sitting and talking fishing with you, and I'm sorry I didn't get to do that this time around. I may just have to come to Oklahoma.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe when you get a 2 foot of snow, you can come on down here like snowboard. Yeah, we can.
Yeah, you can hook me up there, and it's going to be warmer, a lot more pleasant. So here's some. Savannah just said, she goes, "Love me some casking." Smart girl right there. I'll tell you. Hey man, one of the first questions I wanted to ask you is, got to see a lot this year on MLF. How did the season go for you by your standards?
It went pretty good. By my standards, I always want to, do as well as I can and, try to win a tournament or two, but fell a little short of that this year. I did qualify for Red Crest, though. That's the overall goal.
Awesome.
Championship at the end of the year. That makes the off season good. It makes it, you're supporting your sponsors in another tournament the next year, a really big one at that, and a lot of money on the line. So got, that job done. It came down to the wire, though. I was the last guy in and made it happen in the last tournament. I had, a very good tournament to start the season off, made a top 20 there at Toledo Bend. Uh, had some okay tournaments in between, made like 4 out of, I think, the 7 tournaments that we have, made 4 cuts. Uh, 2 of them I fell right below. I think I was the first guy out on one of them, so a lot of just decent tournaments, and then I had one bomb, and that was the one tournament that I didn't think, that I would do that bad in. It was at Eufaula Lake here in Oklahoma, and we just got some Oklahoma weather and a lot of rain, and it trashed the lake, and things really
Mm.
changed. I would have just been better off dropping the trolling motor, and I tried to do too much in that tournament, and it really bit me, and that's kind of why I finished lower than I really wanted to in the points. But I got, a good tournament at the end at the St. Lawrence River, doing a, doing what I like to do, catching smallmouth,
Sure.
and we got it done. So it was a good year, and it was a fun year too. It was a fun schedule. We went to Toledo Bend, Santee Cooper, Del Hollow, Lake Eufaula in Oklahoma, the Chowan River, the James River, and the St. Lawrence River, and that was probably one of the best schedules if I could have picked, all those out over my all those lakes out over my 12-year career. That's probably one of the cooler schedules we've ever fished.
Yeah, that river fishing can be a lot of fun, especially when you key into it and that current. I always say current always positions fish, right? And sometimes on rivers, it's just back to old school. It's just back to old
Yeah.
school, cranking, throwing spinner baits, throwing bladed jigs, just a lot of real fun stuff. We got a question already from Milton Thompson for you. James, he said, "What's your favorite Cast King rod and reel?"
So I'll do two of them. So for casting, I really prefer the Mega Jaws. I use the 9-to-1 gear ratio a lot. It's the red reel, and
Yep,
then also the 7-to-1 gear ratio for like cranking and throwing chatter baits and all the baits that you wind. Um, I use it. It's kind of like the metallic colored Mega Jaws. Those are
yep.
my two favorite reels from Cast King, and I pair that up with a Dasage or Speed Demon rod. But for spinning, this was the MVP this year. This is the only reel I use. I've never tried any other ones besides the Pro, but
It's
it's
a
just
good
been,
one.
yeah, it's just so good. It's the Mega Jaws 2500, and I've got like 7 or 8 of them. But pair that up with a core spinning Asage, and that's, man, I could just have 7 or 8 of those rods. I have some of the other rods also, but that's just a very versatile setup for me, and probably what I did best on this year and the really good tournaments that I did have.
It's interesting that you said the Mega Jaws Elite and a bait cast reel. When I've gotten the question before, if you had to turn somebody onto one casting grill, my
Y-
answer all the time is exactly what you said. The
Yeah,
Mega Jaws Elite and that 7-2-to-1 or 7-5-to-1. That's exactly what I have on my bladed jig rod. I absolutely love that reel. It is with the automatic magnetic braking system on that. It's probably one of the easiest bait cast reels for somebody to learn.
yeah,
Cast a country mile. It's one of the easiest reels, in my opinion, to dial in if you're new to a bait caster. It's not only not going to break the bank, but I think it's probably one of the most versatile reels that Cast King has in their entire lineup, and that's saying a lot. There's a lot of things that reel can do. Would you agree with that too?
I would too. Yeah, the ABS system is a
Yep.
really good braking system. It's very hard to backlash that reel. It's got a great drag on it. I use it for so many different things. It
Yep.
handles light line, it handles heavy line, braid, whatever you want to do. You can crank that drag down on it too if you want, and punch with it and frog with it. So I've done that a lot. I also like to use a deadbolt for that, and there's some little niche reels that Cast King has like the deadbolt.
Yep.
One of my other favorites is the MG12, and if I'm throwing any small bait on a bait caster, that's going to be the reel that I choose because it handles lightweight baits very
Yep.
well. Throws a country mile, and it's really more ideal for 10, 12, and 15-pound line. I would say that ballpark, and that's what I use it for. But it's my favorite, hands down, the best jerk bait reel you can get. It'll throw it. It sometimes you're fishing with gloves on and it's cold, jerk baiting early in the year, and it's just easy to throw, and it's usually windy, that time of year, and it's just easy to throw a jerk bait, really far with that thing, and it palms very well when it's cold outside. Everything about it just makes it the perfect jerkbait reel. So that's also one of my other favorite reels, but I don't use it for, everything like I do, the Mega Jaws. And I really enjoy the Mega Jaws 9 gear ratio
Hmm.
uh, a lot for like my slow baits, my dragging baits, flipping things that I fish slow and I want to crank up really quick.
Right.
I get a bite and catch up with the fish. That's when I'm gonna use that nine speed reel.
It's interesting that when the really high gear ratio reels first came out, it almost felt like you lost power, right? When
Right.
you had a really big fish, and whatever Cast King did in their reels, I've never ever had that
Yeah, you
feeling.
don't.
You
Yeah.
just
Well, that's
you just
why a
don't.
lot of reel manufacturers don't want to make higher power reels. I believe is because they lose, or higher gear ratio reels is because they lose that power. They don't know how to make it, still with power. But Cast King's figured it out to where you're getting a faster reel than anything else out there, but you don't sacrifice that power, and it's very minimal difference if there is any on that power, and it won't matter. When it comes down to it, it's only maybe on the initial hook set or something like that.
Yep. Interesting that you said that, I'm going to hold this reel up again for the MG12 because with that 7.5 to 1 gear ratio, that is a perfect for throwing jerk baits. I throw a jerk bait on a spinning reel and I throw it on a Speed Demon Elite. Why? Because it's got a 7.4 to 1 gear ratio on it. That
Hmm.
that was actually the first reel that I really wanted. I actually walked into the booth at iCast several years ago when I met Jose and I'm like, I saw this reel advertised. I want to see this thing. And for being the like to throw jerk baits on a spinning reel, nothing has taken up line faster and given me more control over my lure when a fish hits it. And the same thing with that MG12. That's 7.5 to 1. I'm glad you said that because to me, I think that is absolutely about the perfect gear ratio for throwing a jerk bait. You can do just about anything with that jerk bait, and you're not having to do it with an effort. When
Right.
when I would do it with a spinning reel before, the average spinning reel before was like 5.3 to 1, you worked a lot.
Hmm.
Baitcasters was the same way. You had to work a lot. As small and as compact and as strong as this reel is, what I think like over 13 or 14 pounds of drag pressure, that drag system on here is phenomenal. And I bet you've got 100% confidence when you hook a big smallmouth with that reel that drag is going to do everything you want it to do, don't you?
Absolutely. I've never had any issues with the drag. It's really smooth, and that's what you have to have with smallmouth is because they jolt on you. When you least expect it, and it's got to be smooth. It can't stick at all.
Well, Milton's got a follow-up question here, and I bet you and I can both speak to this because I know you and I are fans of this reel. And he wants to know, speaking of power, what are your thoughts about the deadbolt? So let him know. Go ahead because I this is what I love this reel.
Yeah, I mean that's my frogging and flipping reel. It's just basically it's the only thing I use it for is braid and frogging and flipping, and those are very critical rods or tools to have that you have to have fishing shallow, especially if you live in
Yep.
lakes with vegetation. Maybe not here in Oklahoma where I'm at, but everywhere else we go seems to be it's always a player, and it's just nice, you, if you're flipping or frogging, you hit them hard and you get them in the boat, and you don't need to mess around with any drag, and you really don't want to. And even if you're throwing a different reel that does have a drag, you're cranking it all the way down anyway.
Right.
So you don't want that slippage, and you're probably not going to break 50 or 65 pound braid.
Right.
It's really probably got to be a something besides a bass that's got sharp toothy critter or something like that. It's just a rarity that you're gonna break braid. I mean, it's so strong. So
Yeah, it doesn't matter what brand it is. They're all good anymore. There's just a lot of really really good ones out there anymore. Yeah, as far as a deadbolt, when I first saw this, I thought that was an awesome idea of no drag. And I've had people say, "Well, oh my God, there's no drag." Well, whenever you're fishing a frog, I'm the same with you are. It's usually about 50 pound. Usually about 50-pound braid is what I do. I'm going to crank it down anyway. And I've had long trips before where other reels that I had where you had to crank it down, you don't realize it, but sometimes your drag after miles on your vehicle towing that boat will come loose. And I've set the hook on a frog and the braid slipped or the
yeah,
reel slipped. And the nice thing about the deadbolt is, and something that a lot of people may not know, not only does it not have no drag, so you're not messing with anything. At the end of the season, I back off all my drags. You don't got to do that with the deadbolt. One thing that I don't think Cast King has really touched on a lot about this deadbolt, and people need to know this, and I think you can back me up on this. It is an absolutely phenomenal casting reel. You
Mhm.
will get extremely far distance with very little effort on this reel and the power to back it up. And just what James said, it's an awesome flipping and pitching reel. But if you guys are throwing frogs, for example, the tournament they just had up in lacrosse, and you have to make long casts over that expensive weed flat or grass bed, and you need to set the hook and get that fish out of there, I would give an honest my honest opinion is I think there's very few reels that can cast as far with as little effort once you dial this thing in than this deadbolt. Do you feel the same way?
Absolutely, you can bomb and you need to bomb a frog a lot of times because you can't physically get the boat to where some of those fish are, especially
Exactly.
lacrosse, and some of that slop. It is such a critical thing to make a long cast and be able to winch them out when you do hook them. So that's a very important. I mean, and if you're not doing that, you're making critical, accurate casts like under bushes and overhanging
Yep.
limbs, stuff like that. So it works really well for that. The other part of that's flipping, and you need a smooth reel for that on spinning rods. So more, I would say about 50-50, but more the better tournaments I had were on the spinning outfit.
And I think just watching over the tournaments because I just love watching that stuff. So watching over the year, it seemed to like a lot more. I know everybody talked about forward facing sonar, but there were also other guys in there that were doing a little bit of everything. And you and I have talked about this before the show. And the only thing I want to talk forward facing sonar is I loved what you said when we were talking about this before the show. It's another tool and it's something you can use from time to time when you want to. And no matter what the rules are, I agreed with you 100%. James said, "You know what I'm doing? I'm going fishing." And I think that's the smartest thing to do because rule always going to follow the rules, but the rules are going to be the rules, whether you're going to use it or not, whatever. It's another tool. At the end of the day, what do we all want to do? We want to go fishing, right?
Yep.
And so, I mean, with that's obviously probably not going to affect you. You don't care if you use it a period or not or whatever. Did that surprise you that they did that, or you just went, okay, that is what it is, and I'm going fishing?
It really didn't come to a big surprise to me because I knew that there was grumblings. But the fan base isn't they enjoy using forward facing sonar, but they don't necessarily always want watching a tournament where that's dominated
Hmm.
is not usually the funnest tournament to watch. More of your tournaments that are fun to watch are the power fishing tournaments, frogging and flipping and the old school stuff. So I think what the league try to do is integrate some of that back into what we're some of our fishing next year, force that back. But at the same time, the forward facing sonar, we're going to get to use that, one period every day of the event. And so that's going to keep it um, really important still. That I mean, that's something that everybody's going to use one period a day.
Yep.
It's gonna play. I mean, there's some times where you can run up the score tracker and get all your work done in one period to make the cut, and that very well could happen. And it can be done on forward facing sonar for sure. But we get to use it in practice, all throughout practice, and just like you said, it being a tool, it's going to really come into play you just finding the fish during practice even if you're not going to be able to use it so much during the tournament. It's going to help help you find out where the fish are, collecting data, all
Sure.
practice. That's the whole key. So it's really going to still play.
Yeah, and collecting data is a great. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that. And I was just up in Manitoba. We were fishing walleyes in 30-foot deep,
Mhm.
and we were on a reef. We knew the fish were there, but it was pretty cool. Just setting the thing up. We were helping somebody set it up. He was learning how to use it and everything like that. And they're watching my jig and wrap down there and watching how the fish react to it. I do think it's really cool for that because we learn a lot about fish behavior. And I'm never going to be opposed to anything that's going to teach me about fish behavior. Now, do we use it all the time? No, but it was pretty cool to see how the fish were reacting to the bait. Now, when it comes to tournaments that are fun to watch, let's talk about the tournament you had in Michigan there where you're catching them on the frog. Now, dude, that was a lot of fun to watch because you're actually fishing. I'm sitting there watching TV going, it's going to hit it. He's going to get one right here. He's going to get, I mean, those are the ones that I really get into because I almost feel like I'm in the back of the boat because I'm like, man, he's going to get smoked right here. And in that tournament, you got smoked a lot, didn't you?
Yeah, I landed on them, and I was one of the three teammates. The other guys were catching them too, but I probably caught one every minute or every 2 minutes, and it was just unreal. I just had this stretch of pads that the fish had pulled out to, and of course, the best tool for that job was the frog, and they were willing to come up that day. It was a perfect day for it.
Mhm.
It just started to cool off in September, and those fish wanted to be shallow, and they were probably sitting up really high in the water column. There wasn't too much wind. There was just enough to kind of mask, you know, you and mask the frog just a little bit to make them want to eat. And I didn't miss a lot. They ate pretty good.
They were chewing it pretty good, man. Hey, we've got Aaron Barlow. Welcome to the show. He said, I didn't know you guys got to practice for a tournament. Yeah. How many days is practice on any tournament? Well, it's going to vary, but James, what are the rules for MLF?
Yeah, three days last year. We were on 2 days of practice before that. So the anglers, some guys want 2 days, some guys want three. I personally want three because I don't I don't want to go pre-practice like that because that costs a lot of money. That's probably $2 or $3,000 just to go
Sure.
to that nowadays. Um, and I don't want to do it because of time either. I'd rather focus on other things and then just learn everything when I get there, and that's more real time. To sometimes if you pre-practice, it really hurts you because things are going to change, even if you know it. So I'm kind of more of a, and I don't. There's a lot of places I still haven't been. Before I started fishing professionally 12 years ago, I've been around now quite a few places, but I never really fished outside of Oklahoma, Texas, or Arkansas. So everywhere I went was new to me. I never really fished that much grass. Everything's new, so I've really developed a lot of my stuff as I've gone throughout my career, which is not really normal. Sometimes people are a little bit more polished across the country before they jump into it, like I did. But I've just always been a fan of 3 days of practice, especially if I'm throwing my money in the hat. And I just feel like I can, prepare. I'm going to be in shape when the tournament rolls around. Um, I'm going to be able to practice hard all 3 days,
Mhm.
daylight to dark, or as long as they let us, and get the most out of it. And my style of fishing also is I like to do a lot of different things. I don't get stupid and do a bunch of off the wall stupid stuff, but I like to check a lot of things. I like to cover a lot of ground. You can just do so much more with an extra day. So all those arrows point towards that being a better thing for me. But I can play the no practice game too if we need to. Which that's what that was in Michigan. The tournament that you saw was the team series, and they just throw you out there. You don't even know where you're at, and I don't even remember the name of that place. So that's a pretty cool thing too. You have to fish differently when that happens, but it's more go 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 power fishing, and making really quick decisions and looking for feeding active fish, and that's kind of the name of that game. So there's two different uh, methods for sure, but yeah, I prefer the 3 days.
Yeah, back many, many years ago, fishing a local circuit here, we would have a classic tournament where there would be no practice. You would get an envelope on a Thursday night. They tell you where you were going. Everybody arrived at the same place on Friday night, no practice, and you fished a 2-day tournament. I love that because it was like, all right, whose instincts are going to kick in first? What's going to happen? That to me was it was like in the style of the old Bassmasters Classic, right? As you didn't know where you were going, you didn't do that. And that's one of the things I like about that MLF style tournament is okay, we're going here. What are you boys going to do?
Yeah,
And that to me is pure tournament competition. I absolutely love that because somebody may have been there. Chances are they probably haven't been. And so let's go out and figure out. And when you land on them like that, like you did in that tournament, that had to not only be exciting for you, it had to be really satisfying too, because you're like, dude, I just put this thing together today. It's a good feeling for you, and it's definitely a good feeling for your team. I love that team series event. Have you liked that they have instituted that? Because I think it's a blast to watch.
it is. It's fun. I don't know. I haven't fished one this year yet, but I'm going to in October. They changed up the format a little bit. I really enjoyed how it was. I don't know. I might like it more how it is now, but it's only 2 guys in 1 boat, and
Okay.
a 21-foot boat, so it's a little different now. Before we had 3 boats, 3 different guys, and you
Right.
communicated, uh, with a Bluetooth, headset. So, I really enjoyed that, had a lot of success doing that.
Yeah.
Last year we almost won. So, it was fun the last 2 years for sure in that setup, but, we'll see how it is this year, and it's still gonna be fun to watch, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, it's like I said, that was one of my favorite things to do. I love watching the banter going back between guys, and a lot of people don't know this. I mean, a lot of you guys are good friends. I mean, a lot of you guys hang around a lot. I mean, I know there's different personalities and different things, but it's pretty cool seeing everybody get to work together and literally have a good time, especially when you figure it out.
Absolutely, yeah, it's a lot of fun, especially, fishing with your buddies, and,
Yeah,
the first year, it was pretty interesting. I I was like one of the high draft picks, right? And Brent Chapman was there, and I just knew there's a lot of great anglers on the board to
yeah,
take, but I just knew that we'd probably work together really well. And he's a very good fisherman for that format, and that was the key. And so I took him, and then Jonathan Van Dam was on the board
yeah. Great.
when it came around the second time, and he had been on a heater, that year, and he's a very good fisherman.
Yep.
Been fishing good. He's a very good angler. So that was the first team series that we fished, and we had a good time doing that. And all 3 guys, did really well in all of our tournaments. And then last year, Jonathan was a drafter, and he picked me. And then he came back, and we got Matt Lee for in the second round. So and we're all kind of the same age, and enjoy some of the same jokes and stuff like that. So
That's awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome. Hey, we're gonna take a little bit of a break, and then we'll come back with James. We'll talk about some more fun stuff. I want to get into some techniques and things like that,
cool.
just because I know a lot of the viewers and listeners are gonna like that. We'll talk about some of your favorite stuff. And who the heck else knows? So we'll come up with something. We know one thing for sure. We're gonna talk fishing. We'll be back in like 2.5 minutes. Located in Springfield, Illinois' largest selection of sports and sportswear, hunting, fishing, specialty shops and services, a 65-foot Ferris wheel, 16,000-gallon saltwater aquarium, and industry-leading knowledgeable employees. You don't take chances at Shields, ever. At Lure Parts Online, we have everything you need to make your own lures, tie your own flies, pour soft plastics, and more. Easy ordering ensures you get your products quickly. You can build all you need to create your own angling success at Lure Parts Online. Cast King, fueled by innovation through novel concepts and ingenious designs, markets directly to consumers with unprecedented cost-effective e-commerce practices, cutting costs by 30% more on average. Cast King empowers anglers of all skill levels to achieve things never thought possible. Find out more at castking.com. Mudhole is your #1 source for custom fishing rods. Mudhole is the world's largest supplier of rod building supplies, information, education, and instruction. The best components and brands you trust, including MHX, CRB, American Tackle, Pro Products, Fuji, AFCO, and more. It's easy to build your own fishing rods at mudhole.com. Believing quality is measured by lifespan, harnessing their unique chemistry, engineering, and know-how. Dakota Lithium lasts 4 times longer, powering your passions and backing it up with an 11-year warranty. Find out more at dakotalithium.com. There we go. Come here. Get in here. Yeah. Nice fish right there. Hi, I'm Jim Crowley. Make sure you catch my show, Jim Crowley Outdoors, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, exclusively on Wired to Fish TV. Look for Jim Crowley Outdoors on Wired to Fish TV on free, ad-supported streaming TV, including Plex, that can be downloaded in the App Store at Apple TV, Roku, Samsung, and others. All right, we are back with MLF Pro James Elam. And just so if some of you guys are new and chiming on tonight or watching us for the first time, please make sure you stay tuned to the end of the show because all the Cast King stuff we were talking about, we're going to be giving out a big discount code, 20% off for anything and everything at Cast King. We're also going to be giving out discount codes for lure parts online as well as Dakota Lithium. So make sure that you stay tuned at the end for that. You don't want to miss that. So James, with fall fishing coming up, do you do any hunting in the off season at all, or are you still fishing year round?
I just sold my boat probably a week ago, a week and a half ago, something like that. Probably won't have another boat till November, December. I do like to do some fall fishing. I normally like around here, September's pretty tough. Late August, September, and even on into October is kind of tough. But when it hits November, I like to start fishing again, and that especially like mid-November to late November and into to December. That's one of my favorite times of the whole year to go, and I'll definitely make some trips then. But I'm going to make more of an effort to fish less this off season and probably fish more like in January. Uh,
When we talk fall fishing, and I want to talk a little bit about drop shot to you as well. But when you talk fall fishing, what are some of the baits that you are going to be picking up in the fall to go? You know what? We're just going to start covering some water. What is a couple suggestions you can give people when they get into fall, into late fall fishing?
you're saying what part of the country are you thinking?
Mostly, I mean, we have a big Midwest audience, but it also goes down to Florida. So um, yeah, I guess yeah, it does depend on that part of the country. But your typical fall baits for you.
Yeah, so like around here, Oklahoma and stuff, like I'm always going. We're getting into the top water time, right? And
Yeah, sure.
always have probably a walking bait on and a some kind of like a buzz bait, two different ones to try quite a bit. Not to say that they won't bite other ones like a popar or something like that, but those are the two that I'm going to push a lot. Walking bait and a buzz bait. So that'll kind of cover that, and then I'll have probably two dragging baits.
Hmm.
One being a jig, the other one probably being some kind of worm, whether that's a shaky head
Hmm.
or uh, just a Texas rig finesse worm or something like that. Uh, they really kind of prefer that. It seems like earlier in the fall. Later in the fall, you get into jig time, especially when the water gets around below 60, around 60 or below. Man, it's just getting into later November. That's jig time, unless you're catching
Yes,
them
it is.
or something like that. But it's and spinner bait and stuff. But and that's another thing is a spinner bait. It's time to start throwing a spinner bait, and I'll
Mhm.
also be throwing a smaller one earlier in the fall, and
Yep.
as we get into the lakes get done turning over and it gets a little bit cooler and closer to 60, I'm going to more of a full size spinner bait, and that just seems to dominate. And that's when the fishing's better too, and you're catching them better, catching bigger ones. And so those are kind of like the meat and potato things. And cranking too
Sure.
has its times during the fall for sure. Um, earlier in the fall, I'm kind of throwing a flat-sided shad colored crankbait quite a bit and a small square bill, uh, and catching those fish, in September and October, doing that. Have some really good days doing that, whether it's on wood or rock or whatever. And then once we start getting a little bit later in the fall, kind of more of just a square bill, every now and then a flat side if it's a tough day. But you also have to check the crawl colors. You probably have a shad and a crawl, both readily available to try both of those things. Don't really mess with any deeper cranking too much in the fall, but I mean
Right.
that can definitely be a deal depending on where you're at in the country. It can be very very good at crank like a medium diver. But those are kind of the things I do. Uh, maybe if you live in Florida, that's totally different.
Sure.
Like this Florida fish are really get keyed in on the bait and go around with the jerk bait. That's a really good way to find them. I fished a fall tournament there last year and nailed them pretty good on a jerk bait. And just some other small shad baits, but jerkbait was really hard to beat. And I'd also probably mix in a top water of some sort there, like a walking top water.
Two things that you said there that I want to follow up on. I've always had really good success in the fall on small crankbaits, whatever you're
Yeah.
throwing. But I've just it's just one of those baits that's going to get big, and I think I was just always relied on. Hey, that time of year, big fish got to eat small fish, man. A small crankbait is to me has always just been one of those fish finder lures, man. You're going to get bit one way or the other. Sometimes in the fall, you can end up catching two, three, four, five different species of fish on those small crankbaits because those fish are really keyed in on
Hmm.
that smaller bait fish that time of year. And I don't know if that's that way across all the way across the country. I do know for sure in the Midwest and the farther north you go, yeah, that little whatever brand you decide to throw, that can be real killer. Now I know you like smallmouth like I do, and I heard you mention walking baits. My favorite topwater throw for smallmouth, for big smallmouth, to me has always been a walking bait. What are one? Is that a choice of yours, or is there another topwater that you rely on when you go? I need a big smallmouth today.
Yeah. Top water fishing for smallmouth, I'm either going to go with a walking bait like you're talking about. Um, there is one that I really like that's got two hooks, but I'm going to try to make sure they're willing, or I'm going to try to catch them on a three hook top water,
Hmm.
because you know how smallmouth are. Uh,
Yep.
that's going to be definitely the first thing I'm going to throw. The second thing would be a popper. Maybe
Okay.
that's earlier in the year deal. Um,
Hmm.
usually a walking bait, like you're saying, is the deal.
It's just a killer smallmouth
Yeah.
bait for big.
They,
Got a question here for you. From Gen Wong said, "Awesome, love the jerk bait. Which one do you favor? What's your favorite brand,
oh,
or
I've
what's?"
got a lot of different ones. Man, it just sometimes, in Florida, I like to throw a floating one and
Sure,
up the line. I still throw it on the MG12, uh, but I'll throw a 15-pound line instead of 12 and 10. And
sure.
you're fishing kind of around the patchier grass, or there's gonna be grass somewhere around,
Yep.
and then beef up the hooks a little bit, maybe throw a floater, um, and fish it fast.
Yeah. Awesome. No, that's one last question for you. And it comes to drop shotting because you did that a lot this year, and especially for smallmouth. Do you have rod reel set up? And then what is one of the baits that you're always gonna? I know you said about the asagi, but what is one of those baits that you're like, hey, I'm going after smallmouth. I got to tie this on a drop shot.
With me, um, I don't think too much about the baits. It's fairly simple. Just I always kind of concentrate more on the weight
Okay.
that I have tied on and the hook size that I have tied on, and then the particular hook that I have tied on. And I'll concentrate a lot on that, and I will go to town drop shotting. But I'll have three or four different goby baits laid out, three or four different minnow baits, um, and cycle through those, and maybe just a couple different colors, like, but fairly simple. A shad, kind of a natural shadish color, a green pumpkin, all
Mm-hmm.
works, um, and a black. Those three colors, throughout the spectrum. Of course, the minnow baits and the shad baits, I'm gonna
Sure.
kind of towards shad colors, and but there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot to be said. I always start with green pumpkin, almost always, and those fish are so rare.
Sure.
There's so many times they'll bite anything.
Yeah.
So, but sometimes it can be very important and very key to find the exact right bait that they want. So I will kind of more or less have a whole tote full of stuff, like in a day box, that I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to cycle through to find that out. And I'm just, on a drop shot, you're just putting one on, throwing it out there real quick, and figuring that out. And one thing I like to do during practice is, when you do find some fish, really try to figure them out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not saying burn them. It depends. If you're on a good fishery, you maybe can burn some, but really figure out what they're eating, and or what they prefer the most. And that's the best time to do that, is when you are in front of them, in fact, and know it. And so when you get off on that field and you're looking for them again, you can kind of have some confidence in what those fish are going to eat, and just go to town, trying to find them with the right tools, and not something that maybe that they don't want.
Very cool. All right. And now this is going to be the most important question of the entire night for you. All right. Just so you know, when you're in that Phoenix boat, what is the number one daylight donut that you take with you?
That's the glazed donuts, man. They're just really hard to beat. I don't know what the formula is there. The sugar on the outside is all of it probably. And then they make good sausage rolls too, and that
Yep.
would probably be my second. Like that's what I'd go get if I'm gonna go daylight. Is I'll walk in there, probably get about 3 glazed donuts and 3 sausage rolls, and they have, like, the cheese and jalapeno ones and put
Oh,
on there, and,
you're killing me.
yeah, chocolate milk with that. Yeah, man, that's hard to beat. That little combo. Goes with the drive-thru.
That makes traveling worth it, dude.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
That's just awesome. Man, I sure appreciate you. I sure appreciate you being on here. I always said one of the coolest sponsors I think in all of fishing
Yeah,
is James Elam and Daylight Donuts. I just absolutely love that. I love that. I love that. I think that's awesome. And you do a great job for them, just like you do for everybody else. When people want to find out more and follow what you're doing, my friend, let them have it. Where can they find out more about James Elam?
yeah, just James Elam Fishing, Instagram and Facebook. I'm gonna start a TikTok here pretty soon, so that's gonna
Uh
be
oh.
new
Oh
frontier.
man.
Yeah. So, gonna be on the TikToks pretty soon, but,
Welcome to the dark side, buddy. I did
yeah,
it this year too. Yep.
yeah, so
That's awesome. Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate you being on, and I'll get you that information we talked about before the show for Shields. Okay, so I'll get that to you. But thank you for taking your time. Have a great rest of the season, whatever you're doing, relaxing, doing some hunting or whatever. God bless you and your family. Thanks for your time, buddy. I sure appreciate you.
you too, Jim. Thanks for having me. See you
See
guys.
you. All right. One of my favorite guys to have on every year. I just love talking fishing with him. He's just a really good dude. And how you see him there is exactly how he is. Is exactly how he is in person. I've sat and talked with him at some sports shows before. He's just a great dude. Hey, so I want to tell you guys, for you guys are here, don't leave yet. Okay, I want to show you a new bait. Those ridges not only will help move more water, that's going to help your O-ring stay in place when you're Nico rigging it. If you're Texas rigging it, we made the head solid so you can Texas rig this. Also, you have an inch of room here to get your shaky head, jig head in here. So you've got more of a harder material up here so your worm will last longer. Also, we made the primetime worm in floating plastic. The new Bass Academy line has both sinking and floating plastics depending on the technique. The primetime worm is a floating worm. Okay. So when you Nico rig it, that spade tail is going to stand straight up. When you are doing it on a shaky head and you're going to order something, put in this code JC Outdoors 10. You will get 10% off your first order. Okay. Now, all the reels that we talked about with James tonight at Cast King, every single one of them, every single thing on the Cast King website, use this code JC52AFF, 20% off everything at Cast King whenever you use that code. As many times you want it. Give it to friends. Hand it out. I'm telling you right now with that code, you don't pay retail again. We got another comment here. Again said, yeah, it's a perfect time to build. It is, Ken. It's a perfect time to build. All right. So that is our Cast King code. Now, if you're looking for a lithium battery, and we know lithium batteries are expensive, the battery company that supports the sport the most, Dakota Lithium. All right. You want 10% off a lithium battery? That's a big deal. 10% off code right there, Slickfish10. Okay. So those codes right there, Cast King, Lure Parts Online, and Dakota Lithium, you can do that right there. All right. I want to thank again our friends at Shields, our friends at Lure Parts Online. So grateful for them as well as Cast King, Mudhole, and Dakota Lithium. But as I always say, I am the most grateful for all of you. Thanks again to our special guest, James Elam, tonight. What a great guy. But thank you to all of you for joining us from the bottom of my heart. God bless you all. See you soon.